Hello and good evening to you. Welcome to News 360 and this live more news up here at Desawe in Kanda. My name is Alfredo Conte.
And I'm Natalie Fort. Let's get into the headlines for this evening.
News 360 Headlines is brought to you by...
Danger looms as bridge on rail line between Tesano and Alajo in Accra is caving in.
Pathologist conducting autopsy on the late Major Maxwell Mahama says he cannot trace parts of the body.
Also ahead this evening, Ga youth demand immediate end to the protracted chieftaincy conflict that has rocked the traditional area.
And in business this evening, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta hints of government plans to establish a National Development Bank to accelerate development.
And elsewhere on the continent, presidential election rerun in Kenya marred by isolated clashes and a boycott by the main opposition. We've got the details of these stories for you here on News 360, and this bulletin is streaming live all across the world on 3news.com as well as TV3 Ghana on Facebook.
Let's go on to our first story this evening. And youth in the Jamestown area of Abola Piam have demanded an immediate end to the protracted chieftaincy dispute and conflict that has rocked the Ga state. A police intervention on Wednesday prevented a bloodbath between the two factions. Komla Kluche has the rest of the story.
For 12 years, Amate has been renting canopies and chairs in the Jamestown community. This business has sustained life for him and his family. His business is under threat with tension so high in the area.
Working on this area is not moving on, as we all know, for the past days. Because of the fighting and the police people are around there with the soldiers moving on and off. It's been a headache all over here.
Police armored tanks stationed at the troubled spot situated in Abola Piam Way stool house. Even though calm, intelligence from the police is pointing to reprisal attacks. While these are a worry to the people, the community is one of the poorest in the country, and planned structures compete with cars on the street, creating a congested environment. A description of poverty plagued with conflict. Subjects cry out.
Today, one faction installs a chief. Tomorrow, another also installs. It is chaotic.
The chieftaincy issue in the Ga state has become legendary. Legendary because there's no end in sight to it. Sanitation is one of the issues, and you can see it is one thing that worries the people so much. Poverty is also very endemic, but the fights between the various houses claiming ownership to become leaders of the Ga state is what is a bigger worry to the people. Will that solve the poverty issues? Will that solve the sanitation issues? For them, the most important thing is that the Ga state becomes united and fights the common enemy of poverty and sanitation. Komla Kluche, TV3 News, Jamestown, Accra.
In other top stories this evening, the pathologist who conducted autopsy on late Major Maxwell Mahama has told an Accra Magistrate Court he could not trace parts of the body of the deceased during the autopsy. Dr. Lawrence Edusei told the court he is unable to tell who had taken the body parts and for what purpose.
On October 10, the court ordered the pathologist Dr. Lawrence Eduse and the head of the 37 Military Hospital Pathology Department to appear before it to explain why the report has delayed. Dr. Eduse, appearing before the court, said he had requested for the crime scene officer, the officer in charge of ballistics, and investigators to assist him, but none heeded to his request. He blamed the investigators for the delay of the report. In answering why he had not contacted authorities when he was faced with challenges, he told the court he encountered difficulties as the judiciary in previous years had not paid him for work done. The police prosecutor DSP George Amega in defense said the law gives the pathologist the opportunity to write to the police if he encountered difficulties and thus rejected the doctor's claim. The magistrate Ebenezer Kweku Ansa gave the pathologist and the police 3 weeks to work together to make sure the autopsy report is made available. 23 people are currently standing trial for their alleged involvement in the murder of Major Maxwell Mahama. Sitting continues on November 23.
Oh, to other stories, Organized Labour is upset at the National Pensions Regulatory Authority for failing to honor an invitation to explain how much is in the temporary pension fund account at the Bank of Ghana. Leadership of the unions have therefore warned the NPRA to be ready to pay and fund another event which will invite them to discuss the amount.
The leadership of Organized Labour wrote a letter of invitation to the National Pensions Regulatory Authority on September 25 this year. The invitation was to allow the NPRA to disclose how much has been accrued at the temporary pension fund account at the Bank of Ghana. It was also to encourage the NPRA to explain when the transfers to the funds would be done and the payment schedule for their 18 months arrears under the second-tier pension scheme. Leadership of Organized Labour said it invited the CEO of NPRA, who indicated that he would be traveling outside the country. Unfortunately, the Chief Executive Officer failed to delegate a senior officer to represent him at the event. This angered members of Organized Labour.
They have not yet felt the venom of trade unionism. Why? They have not felt the venom of trade unionism. But on the day we will rise up strongly against them. That day, if we say we are inviting the CEO, even if he's traveling to the moon, he will cancel that trip and come and meet us.
They are taking us for granted, but we will let them become responsible to us because it is our hard-earned money that they are supposed to see to its management for us.
Because we were expecting them to tell us something about our Tier 2 funds. And you not heard anything? And we didn't get anything from them. Very, very sad.
Secretary General of TUC, who doubles as a spokesperson for Organized Labour, pleaded with his colleagues to be patient. He promised to allow the NPRA to fund the next event to discuss the second-tier pension scheme.
We will get them to organize something like this.
Funding themselves?
Of course, they have done that before. It's not new. So once they have budget for education, so that education budget part could be used to bring all the 200-300 people together again and then discuss the second tier.
But the unions of the view the NPRA does not have the funds to do so.
I don't even believe NPRA have that money. They don't have anything. So they don't have, I don't believe they have the money to fund it.
Let's now attention to Parliament now, as the minority wants government to amend the Criminal Act before it can proceed with a special prosecutor bill. According to the minority, the Constitution has already vested in the Attorney General the powers to prosecute. Meanwhile, the special prosecutor bill has been read for the second time in Parliament.
The minority maintained it is not against the setting up of the Special Prosecutor Office, but rather its procedure. During the second reading of the Special Prosecutor Bill, the minority leader questioned the procedure of the bill.
Is it that a Special Prosecutor will do and can do that the Attorney General is not vested with authority to do? It's my simple multi-million-dollar question. What is it? Because, Mr. Speaker, they say influence. And, Mr. Speaker, that leads me to appointment. In this bill, the same president who appoints the Attorney General is the same president you say will appoint the Special Prosecutor. Therefore, the principle of prosecutorial independence is defeated in this bill.
He suggested all financial malfeasance brought before the Public Accounts Committee must be dealt with by the special prosecutor.
We need to make corruption a high-risk activity. Therefore, it doesn't know political colors.
While MP for Adenta maintains the bill, if passed, would help fight corruption, MP for Boko Central insists existing institutions investigating corruption cases should be well resourced to work.
This country has facilitated between quasi-judicial measures, commissions of inquiry, to draconian authoritative measures where people have been shot out of hand without trial for corruption, to the point where we have come back to adversarial means following common law principles.
And Mr. Speaker is a very senior lawyer. At the end of the day, it is the quality of the judgment, the conviction, the reasoning of the judge, the analysis of the facts and the law, and the application of the facts to the law to the facts, that will determine independence or otherwise of any prosecution.
Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Ayariga rationalized that we should rather strengthen existing institutions and leave them to perform. Mr. Speaker, in corruption cases, one can never provide sufficient motivation or incentives.
The Attorney General and Minister of Justice indicated the existing institutional framework are confronted with bottlenecks.
Perhaps this is the time to deal with that canker called corruption. And to do that, Mr. Speaker, we must pry that can gingerly and deal with the context.
In the bill, a division would be established dedicated to the recovery of assets which will be seized. Provisions have also been made in the bill to empower the office to request accused persons to disclose their assets, as well as freeze assets of persons alleged to have committed corruption offences. Tainted property are also to be confiscated and vested in the state. The bill has meanwhile been read for the second time.
And President Akufo-Addo has assured Ghanaians he is determined to ensure that the open border policy adopted by his government does not undermine the economy. He was speaking at the commissioning of the officer cadet into the immigration service in Asinfosu.
The parade, which is the 9th batch of officer cadet to pass out, was made up of 34 males and 20 females. The officer cadets were admitted into the academy in December 2016 and passed through 10 months of intensive training. President Akufo-Addo said the process of regional and continental integration is an important measure to ensure Ghanaian businesses become more competitive in West Africa and beyond.
The opening of our borders is giving true meaning to the ECOWAS protocols on free movement of goods and persons, and will spur on progress and prosperity for our peoples. That is why, since 8th June 2017, the Aflao border post has been running for 24 hours, and same has been extended to Akanu and Segwe border posts.
Government, the president noted, is mindful of the security threats and challenges this policy may bring, especially with the growing threat of terrorism in the region.
The Immigration Service is critical to the security of our borders and in the prevention of cross-border and transnational crime. Indeed, it is at the forefront of the regional effort to combat growing terrorism. Equally important, the service is the first port of call for the offering of the famed Ghanaian hospitality to tourists and visitors to our country.
President Akufo-Addo charged the graduating class to discharge its duties professionally and help realize the vision of the immigration service.
Now, Deputy Minister Designate for Food and Agriculture, Kennedy Nyako Osei, has told the Appointment Committee during his vetting Thursday that the ministry is working at bringing the fall armyworms under control.
It was reported in the media that you have stated that the armyworms have been defeated.
Looking at the control level, the level it has been controlled, I can confidently say that we have been able to defeat the army, because if you have a farmland of about 112,000 hectares being attacked and 98,000 hectares have been recovered, just 14,000 hectares have been destroyed. Then if you look at the recovery rate, that means we have defeated the army. I admit that armyworm has become a challenge for all of us, especially the African country. So we are working on it hard, and I know the ministry has put in place measures to ensure that they're able to control the invasion of this army so that they don't destroy our farmlands.
He also indicated fertilizer should be subsidized so everyone would be able to buy rather than to give out for free. Kennedy Nyako Osei takes over from William Kwetu, who resigned his post as Deputy Agric Minister owing to some alleged ethnocentric comments he made that received public backlash.
Away from Parliament, squatters along the Achimota rail line have turned the Accra and Swam train into a lavatory. The coaches are not in use due to maintenance. Actually, what we're getting is that the coaches are not in use due to maintenance works of the rail lines.
The Accra Nsawam shuttle has not been operating for 2 months to pave way for rehabilitation of the rail tracks. Squatters along the stretch have resorted to defecation in the coaches. The coaches have also become a safe haven for miscreants. Garbage generated from domestic activities also end up in the train. Managers of Ghana Railways declined to comment on the issue. Meanwhile, traders at Nsawam have also resorted to transacting brisk business daily on the rail tracks.
Well, that's the situation there as we speak, but let's still stay the steam on that area because danger looms as a bridge on the rail line, we're told, between Tesano and Alajo in Accra is caving in. Some residents allege train engines sometimes disengage from the coaches when the train gets to the bridge. Now, this was revealed at the public hearing of the committee investigating the train derailment on Monday, and we'll be looking into this and to assess exactly what the situation is and what is happening there. Solomon Menya has the rest of the story.
The Achimota train station near Santana Market was the venue for the public hearing. The committee, chaired by the Deputy Railways Minister, Kweku Agyeman-Boateng, is expected to ascertain the cause of the accident and make recommendations to avert future happenings.
The committee is supposed to work on finding reasons for this particular derailment. If you talk about the Nsawam line, it was grounded because of totally different reasons. All lines can be good or bad. It doesn't mean accidents will not occur. What I'm saying is that we have to find what caused the derailment. It might not even be the tracks. It might be the driver fault, it might be the stock fault. I mean, rolling stocks, you get new ones, they can run into an accident.
Owusu Mane was in charge of ticketing and found himself in the track that derailed.
I found out that the train was shaking, so I told the passenger they should be very calm because the train has derailed. They were rushing to get out, and I told them nobody should get out because when you try that, you wound yourself or maybe you will die. In fact, I tried my best to stop them. Still, they were rushing.
While some attributed the accident to speeding, others refuted such claims. Some attributed it to the poor state of the rail lines and bad maintenance culture. A tour around the rail lines reveal most of the land spaces around have been used as refuse dumping site. There are unbridled erections of makeshift structures, shops and food joints on the sideways of the rail lines. Assemblyman for the Abelempe, Tesano and Adama electoral area, Sidi Talikai, expressed worry over human activities around the rail lines, though under the National Railway Act, it is unlawful for any structure to be built within 100 feet of the railway.
The line itself, the railway itself has to get cameras to make sure that they have been secure or security on their line. It shouldn't be always the environmental health from AMA has to do that. They have to make sure they have an injury room monitoring their system.
Some workers were unhappy about the activities of individuals along the rail lines. This is the piece of metal known as shank, and this actually holds the rail line and these sleepers together firmly on the ground. Some unscrupulous young men have been removing these shanks and actually selling them to scrap dealers. This is believed to have also accounted for a shift in the positioning of the rail lines. A bridge which forms part of the rail lines that links Accra and Tema through Achimota became the topic for discussion at the public forum. Many expressed apprehension over the state of that portion of the rail line, describing it as a death trap.
Residents have complained to them that, look, stop the train for 1 month, construct the bridge, and it will be okay for we and the train to, we the residents and the train, because that's where we all crosses to the other side of the area. And we've complained, and what they are saying that it's from the authority. The authority is not minding them.
This is the Achimota Accra rail line, and to my right here is Alajo, and to my left is Tesano. A careful look or study of this particular rail line shows that this particular portion, which is over the drain, has sunk in a little bit. So most of the time, what the train drivers do is when they get here, they need to slow down to ensure that the unforeseen does not happen. In spite of all these challenges, the Deputy Railways Minister, Kweku Agyeman-Boateng, assured the committee's recommendation will be implemented to the letter.
We are going to overhaul all the lines. I mean, these lines are quite old. Look at the slippers. These are wooden slippers. The slippers are not even treated. There's going to be new tracks. We're going to rehabilitate these ones for the lines to work, and we're going to get new ones.
The committee will also hold private sittings on the incident. Persons who have any information to share with the committee can call 0266 510381. Selom Amenya, TV3 News, Accra.
I'm certainly bringing you more stories on that subsequently. But away from the transport sector and onto health, the Netherlands Embassy has launched the Women 360 initiative to minimize maternal mortality in the country. The public-private partnership social intervention enables pregnant women to access antenatal care at their convenience.
Maternal mortality refers to deaths due to complications from pregnancy or childbirth. Statistics from the UN Interagency indicate that from 1990 to 2015, the global maternal mortality ratio declined by 44% from 385 deaths to 216 deaths per 100,000 live births. This translates into an average annual rate of reduction of 2.3%. In Ghana, cases of maternal mortality have been attributed to poverty and inability of pregnant women to attend antenatal care, hence the launch of the Women 360 initiative. The intervention, which was initiated and implemented by Farm Access, an affiliate of the Netherlands Embassy, collaborates with local smaller health facilities to provide care to expectant mothers.
What we have sought to do is to pick best of class obstetricians and gynecologists in Ghana, pull their skills together, put together midwives who are well trained, and link these two units so that if a midwife is seeing you at a small clinic, it's as good as being seen by the top-notch specialist obstetrician in a big hospital.
Netherlands Ambassador to Ghana, Ron Stricker, affirms both Ghana and Netherlands have drifted their existing bilateral relationship from aid to trade, promising his government resolve to support Ghana's social intervention programs.
This type of project, I think, is the future in Ghana, is also the future in Ghana. So therefore we hope to be able to support this as long as possible.
The initiators of Women 360 said they will replicate the intervention in all regions.
We're still live here on News 360, streaming all across the world on 3news.com as well as TV3 Ghana on Facebook. We've got the latest from the world of business for you shortly. Stay with us.
You're watching News 360. Good evening and thanks for staying with us. It's time for business now. My name is Nanekia Mensah Brampa. Now, industrialization is critical in engendering economic development. TV3 Business throws its searchlight on the Ayensu starch factory at Boduase in the Central Region in a three-part story that focuses on Ghana's need to industrialize.
The Ayensu Starch Factory was inaugurated in 2004 as the hub of starch production in Ghana. It collapsed in 2006 due to lack of raw material supply, power outages, and spare parts needed to run the factory. But that seems to be the story of the past. As part of measures to revive the factory, the government in 2015 entered into a public-private partnership with Tiberius Ghana Limited, which acquired a 70% majority share, while government maintained 30%. The new owners did major retrofitting works on the plant during the entire half of the year and began test runs in July and full production in August this year, but ran into problems with its dryer, which has been resolved. The factory currently can process between 100 and 150 tons of cassava daily. Farmers who intend supplying cassava must call ahead and make arrangements for them to be put on schedule.
Cassava is perishable. And so if we buy after a day or two, if it is not processed, it is started going waste. And so we needed them to understand that if it is in the ground, you are okay. The moment you pull it out and you bring it to us and we are unable to process, we still owe you your money, and we have to pay you even though we are losing the cassava. So it is very important that they work in sync with us. As soon as we can take it, we will arrange with you, give you the right time to bring it.
The plant's installed capacity is 75 metric tons of starch daily, but is currently working at half of its capacity, giving an output between 22 and 23 metric tons of starch daily.
When this factory works and works well, it is a very good income generating avenue for our rural people. And we want to help in that. We are happy to see them earn a livelihood off our back. And we are encouraging the farmers not to plant 2 acres at once and harvest at once. Stagger your production, your farming all year round so that every month you earn income, because this factory will be here for you.
All right, so there'll be more on the Ayensu Starch Factory in subsequent bulletins. You should look out for that. Now, ahead of the 2018 budget reading, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has hinted government's plans to establish a national development bank to help in accelerating the country's development. Representing the Finance Minister at the 2017 Capital Market Week seminar in Accra, a Deputy Finance Minister, Charles Idubuahin, indicated this and other financial policies will be announced in the 2018 budget to strengthen the capital market.
In a speech read on his behalf, the finance minister outlined some of the policies that will feature prominently in the 2018 budget. These include money transfer platforms, development of local funds by leveraging on pension schemes.
We also would like to establish a national development bank and turn Ghana into an international financial center to attract foreign capital flows to critical areas of the economy and for the sub-region. We'd also like to develop our mortgage and housing finance market, especially with the capacity to provide cheaper local currency mortgages and affordable housing using modern technology and leveraging on economies of scale.
Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Reverend Daniel Ogbami Tete, noted the securities and capital markets continue to strongly get integrated into the economy. He stated in the near future, the securities and capital markets will become the backbone of the country's development.
A well-functioning capital market will require that all the stakeholders deliver on their mandate to give the needed confidence to asset owners, both retail and institutional. It is important to address and redress any issues that have the potential to gnaw away at the confidence of asset owners.
Managing Director of Boulders Advisors, Reginald Franz, expects the new minimum capital requirement by banks to impact the capital market for national development.
We were talking on a holistic basis and not just capital market operators, because what happens from a systemic risk affects all the other financial players, from insurance companies to banking institutions. And therefore, the ecosystem that makes up all of us is the financial system.
The Capital Market Week is under the theme Safety and Security of Ghana's Financial Market. Director of the Finance Division of the Finance Ministry, Samson Akligo, said there is a need for a rating agency and a national data center to protect the financial market, which the government is working on.
Let's head to the ports now, where management of the Tema PSC shipyard has described calls by the Maritime Dock Workers Union for the managing director, Captain Francis Micah, to be sacked as needless. That is a general manager of the Business Development Department of the company, Alice Tokunu, said for the first time the yard has recorded 20% growth in revenue within 1.5 year administration.
277 workers forming 2 unions at the shipyard. Although there's tension among the 2 existing rivalry unions, the Maritime Dock Workers Union of the TUC and the Port Seamen Maritime Dockers Union, that has not affected productivity.
We don't really know what is the problem or the difficulty of the General Secretary of the Maritime and Dock Workers Union in calling for the removal of the Chief Executive Officer. Because in this yard, the 2 unions are working well. We, the management team, have ensured that the 2 unions as labor or as workforce work well.
Management say the company is now coming out of its dark days, adding allegations by one of the unions of weak performance were half-truths.
When the GPHA management team, led by Captain Francis Micah, came into the yard between July and December, the yard handled 18 vessels, bringing the total for the year to 24. In 2017, as at September, the yard has done 24 vessels. And so the yard is progressing and moving on, and I think that the distraction is not necessary.
From 1964 till now, the Tema Dry Dock Shipyard has gone through a lot of phases. Currently, we have 2 unions in the company. Each of the union are fighting for the betterment of their members. Each of the union have a collective bargaining agreement. So now, who is going to negotiate with management for the welfare of their members? TV3 will keep viewers posted on this developing story. Josephine Frimpon, TV3 News, Tema Harbour.
And here at the News Hub, we're wrapping up with the performance of the Ghana cedi against its major trading currencies, talking about the cedi to the dollar, which has remained stable for the past 3 quarters and more. But this stability is not sustainable, according to the Institute of Fiscal Studies. Well, the cedi to the dollar is being bought at 4 Ghana cedis 37 pesos, and when it's being sold to you, it is same on the interbank market. And to that of the cedi to the Great British Pound, it is being bought at 5 Ghana cedis 74 pesos, and it will be sold to you at 5 Ghana cedis 75 pesos. Wrapping it up with that of the cedi to the euro is buying at 5 Ghana cedis 14 pesos and being sold at 5 Ghana cedis 15 pesos. Remember, it would differ from one bank to the other, and the forexes might be higher. But that's how we wrap up on Business Tonight. My name is Nanekia Mensah Brampa. Good evening.
Welcome back to the international front, where polls have closed in Kenya's presidential election rerun. The polls has been marred by isolated clashes and a boycott by the main opposition.
Polls have closed in Kenya's presidential election rerun. The polls has been marred by isolated clashes and a boycott by the main opposition. Tens of thousands of police and other security staff deployed to protect voters and polling stations, which closed at 5 o'clock local time. The Electoral Commission said voting in those areas will be postponed until Saturday. A teenage boy was shot by police and later died amid clashes in the opposition stronghold of Kisumu, one of 4 counties hit by violence. The Electoral Commission has 7 days to declare the results. President Uhuru Kenyatta was declared the winner in an August vote, which was annulled because of irregularities. Mr. Kenyatta is seeking a second term. Opposition leader Raila Odinga has pulled out of the contest. About 50 people are reported to have been killed in violence since Mr. Kenyatta was declared the winner in August election.
And international relations expert Professor Vladimir Intridanso has appealed to President Kenyatta to show leadership by personally annulling the results of the elections. The Director of Academic Affairs at the Ghana Armed Forces Command and Staff College noted continued instability in Kenya could impact on the whole region and allow terrorist groups space to flourish. He spoke with Komla Kluche.
It's a very dicey situation in Kenya, a very unfortunate situation. I do not think leadership in Kenya has done the country any good. Leadership, I mean the opposition, the government itself, and the Supreme Court.
We also know that Kenya's main port of Mombasa is a hub for landlocked countries like Uganda. How will this insecurity impact on trade and economics of countries which rely on Kenya heavily for import?
The development of Kenya is going to be jeopardized. In the first place, Mombasa is not just a hub. Kenya generally is the hub for the interior, and Kenya is a giant in the East African community. Everything emanates from Kenya. In fact, the new infrastructure that they want all the way to the DRC, Goma, is running from Mombasa all the way through Rwanda and other places to DR Congo. And all these things may be jeopardized, may be stopped, may be hampered by instability in the country. Because if Raila Odinga want to stress things further, then the strategy would be to make Kenya ungovernable, to make Uhuru Kenyatta's governance, the second term of office, very, very unpleasant. In that sense, it means pockets of non-state actors within Kenya themselves will make sure that Kenya doesn't rise. And if that is the case, then the whole region is in turmoil. I would like personally to advise President Uhuru Kenyatta to show leadership.
Now, there has been some pockets of violence in Kenya between the period of the actual election and the presidential poll rerun. I'm just going to run us by the main things that have occurred during this period. Now, the turnout appears to be much lower than the 8 August election. We can relate that to Raila Odinga speaking to his supporters to boycott it, as well as voting is to be delayed until October 28 in 4 of Kenya's 47 counties. October 28th, that's Saturday. Elections have also been postponed in Western Kenya, and you know that one has been killed in opposition heartland of Kisumu, who's a young teenage boy, in fact. Around 50 people have been killed throughout this period, mostly by security forces since the original August 8th vote. And that's why concerns have been raised for action to be taken to ensure that the violence does not escalate. The Supreme Court also annulled Kenyatta's win and ordered fresh elections, which is what is currently ongoing. Odinga pulled out of the rerun and urged a boycott. And this can be linked to the fact that there have been less numbers this time, this particular rerun. So we would wait and keep bringing you more information on the developments in Kenya and hoping that the violence does not escalate.
Absolutely. Let's go on to the entertainment world for some entertainment news. All right, the chairman of the Ghana Music Rights Organization, GAMRO, Rex Omar, has revealed the Collection Society's register is bloated. Now, erasing its struggle to implement intended welfare programs. His administration intends to raid the register of ghost names to ensure monies are put to good use.
Every member that is insured is going to be given a card by Metropolitan. Okay. And they have selected high-end hospitals so that whenever you are ill as a member, you can go to the hospital without necessarily coming to Gamro. Because right now what we have is a Gamro member is ill, and then he will have to go to hospital, whether he has money or not, he will have to come to Gamro. And we want to lift our people up, because sometimes some of the things they go through is it's not dignified.
The initiative is born out of the realization that most right owners end up as paupers after an impressive career. The welfare package to be rolled out in December 2017 will include health insurance and personal pension. For a start, 1,000 right owners have been catered for. Who qualifies to benefit from the welfare package?
So long as you are a legitimate member of Gamro, it will cover you.
Who is a legitimate member of Gamro? Somebody who
have assigned his right to Gamro, and Gamro has been collecting and be paying you a royalty.
With the life insurance package, registered right owners have the option of adding their family members. This may come as a refreshing news to many, but unfortunately, a chunk may be left out. Rex Omar describes such persons as ghosts who have for decades illegally benefited from Gamro's coffers.
Right now, we know for sure that our register is bloated. There are ghost names in our register. We cannot afford to spend right owners' money to pay for ghosts. Okay. So those that we are sure that are in our register and our members, we will start paying for them. But if you are a member and you don't see your name in it, and you believe that you are a member and have assigned your right to Gamro, when you come, we will immediately add you to it.
How are we going to get rid of those ghost names?
This is what is going to happen. Those we know are sure members of Gamro, when we protect them, those who know they are not sure members of Gamro, they will not come forward. And if you don't come forward, we will not continue to pay royalties, because we know that the royalties we pay, a lot of the money goes to people who are not members of Gamro. We will gradually find ways and means to clean our register so that whatever money we get, if we were supposed to be 3,000 and some people were getting, the bottom people were getting, say, 500. If by the grace of God we are able to wipe away the ghost and we become, say, 1,000 or 1,005, the money should go up. And so far as I'm concerned, I want to get more money for my members.
Well, cleaning up their register, it's a good move.
It is. I mean, there are ghosts everywhere. I mean, they should just go paperless. That'll help them.
Oh, well, it might help them,
absolutely. True. But thank you for spending your 60 minutes with us here on News 360. On behalf of the rest of the team, we're grateful. My name is Alfred Kansi.
And I'm Natalie Force. We've got more news on our website, 3news.com. Remember, news at 10 later this evening will simulcast on our sister station, that's 3FM 92.7.